Guess it's my turn. What's going on, pack? It's Quacky here, and we're gonna cover what many would consider to be Krunker's successor, KOUR, not KOUR. Alright, it's KOUR, like hardcore. There's been a lot of talk about this game recently due to it being founded by former Krunker community members, as well as Legion platforms who are the publishers of Plunder.io and Foodstars.io. So what I'm here to do today is go over what the redeeming qualities of KOUR are, as well as my opinions on the areas that are going to need some looking at, along with my summed up thoughts on if KOUR can get to the point of becoming Krunker 2.0. As always, if you find this information to be useful to you, then of course be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing to the channel to stay up to date, and check out the Twitch and Discord linked below. Alright, so I'm going to break the game down into sections, and just as a disclaimer, KOUR is still labeled as a beta. Now, the issues that I describe here could be fixed by the time this video comes out or in the near future, so just keep that in mind. They have been developing the game for just about a few months now, and as you can hear the menu sound, there's no way to mute it, so I'm just going to go ahead and just yeet that for now. And to also note, I am not being paid by either Legion or Yendis or any of those parties to make this video, so these are my own raw, unbiased opinions. Let's start with the first thing I like off the bat in KOUR, which is the main menu. I am so glad that KOUR decided to have a standalone menu where you can do all of your customization and shop stuff without automatically being spawned into a game. This helps prevent lobbies from appearing larger than normal, and the lobbies aren't actually being saturated with active players. And all in all, it's your active IO game menu layout, right? You have your vertical sidebar here, and something that I've noticed is every time you click on something new, for example, like the leaderboard, it always shows it downloading. Now, in my opinion, since the game has a theme around chickens, I think it'd be creative to have a chicken loading icon instead of it saying download, but that's just me. In regards to the player base, and those of you wondering how active KOUR really is in game, I took the player count numbers between Krunker and KOUR at the same time of day, which was in the evening Australian Eastern Standard Time, basically around when Frankfurt would be starting to wake up. And as you can see, comparing them both, assuming that both of these counters are accurate of course, KOUR is not that far behind Krunker. And to Krunker's credit, this doesn't include Steam, this doesn't include Discord or mobile or Facebook. So this is a straight up .io to .io comparison. And KOUR is also, I believe, on the Google Play Store, but I don't know how much that would factor into their numbers. So now looking at KOUR shop, you can see that you can get a variety of skins and that you can directly purchase with KP, which is their currency system, very similar to Krunker's, where you can either earn them in game or pay for them of course in this buy KP tab, which actually shows you how many times people have purchased these. I'm assuming this is 100% accurate. And in terms of the unboxing experience in KOUR, it's very similar to a game like Counter-Strike where you open cases, which they call vaults here. So I'm gonna go ahead and watch an ad for you guys here. This is a test ad. So after that, we can now see the crate here. It shows you each item that you can earn, as well as the odds that you can earn that item. And I find it a bit odd that items in the same rarity aren't the same odds, but that's just how they do it. So if we unlock the crate, you'll see every item that you can earn just pass by, which I do prefer versus Krunker spin system, because you can actually see the items that you could possibly earn. And we got a neat little op skin there. And of course, they're going to add a trading system at some point with the player marketplace, but there's no set timeline for that quite yet. Alright, so now that we're hopped into a custom game here, I want to cover the movement system in KOUR because it's very different from Krunker's. It's very similar to Counter-Strike Source, where you're bunny hopping around and air strafing rather than sliding to gain momentum. Like as you see right here, I'm just holding down my spacebar the whole time and not even like pressing my W key down, which took me a while to get used to because in other games I'm very used to just holding my W key down the whole time to get momentum. But in this game that is not the case whatsoever. And unfortunately, with other browser games, this game also suffers from high polling rate issues. So if you're on 4000 Hertz polling rate, you will experience mouse flicks fairly often. I'll try and show you guys here an example of some mouse flicks. Yeah, right there, as you can see, a lot of mouse flicks happening at 4000 Hertz polling rate. But if you go into your mouse software and lower it back down to 1000 polling rate, those problems should pretty much go away for you. So in comparison, in Krunker, you're going to be able to accelerate much quicker in that game with the slide hopping mechanic, but in KOUR, you have way more control over the fluidity of your movement, and the air strafing is a nice welcome difference, which I honestly do like a lot. When it comes to game modes, we have free-for-all, the random mode which just cycles through all the modes, team deathmatch, gun game, and FFA 30, which is a 30-minute free-for-all lobby. And last but not least, we have hardpoint and battle royale and CTF coming soon, along with zombies. Pretty standard modes there aside from FFA 30. From my experience playing in game, it's pretty uncommon to see players actually retain and play out the whole entire 30-minute match. I just think that 30 minutes is way too long. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. It does make for nice game results screenshots though, at least. In regards to the maps in KOUR, there aren't very many. At the time I'm making this video, there are a total of 4 maps. Now we have Havana, which is the map that we were just on, Snowstorm, which is basically just Sandstorm, Ghost Town, which is Nuketown or New Town in Krunker, and Courthouse. Not the worst selection for being in development for just a few months, but I would love to see at least a few more maps come into rotation very, very soon. For classes, they have everything you'd want really, from the AK to the sniper, different SMG loadouts, even a flamethrower and an RPG. In KOUR, there are more than just one type of rifle as a standalone class. Rather than there just being an assault rifle class, you have an AK and a Scar class, and instead of there just being one submachine gun class, you have an MP5, a P90, and a Vector class. And now you might be wondering how the class balancing is in this game, and it needs some work. The most common complaints I see revolve around the P90 and RPG. The submachine gun in this game basically has no fall off with the fast rate of fire, so you guys can probably imagine how annoying that could be to play against, but I've been told that they're going to nerf it soon, so that's a plus. And the RPG splash radius is basically the circumference of Jupiter. It's pretty bad. The class has basically no skill expression. Something else to note is that the classes have their own health values, similar to Krunker, and are unlockable with kill milestones, as you can see here. In regards to kill streaks, they have not yet been implemented into KOUR. However, they do have a missions tab, which if you complete, you can earn additional KP to unlock more crates or buy whatever skin you'd like. Also, something to note is that they have an elo system, but it's not really an elo system. From what I can tell, it's kind of just like how much you've played. So I'm sure they're going to develop on that even further down the road, but just something to mention, just something interesting. And in terms of weapon animations and inspects and all that jazz, they've done a pretty good job so far. Players seem to love to spam them a lot. Here's the AK one, got the Deagle one, which I see a lot of people using, and the Deagle inspect animation as well. They're all quite clean, and there's also emotes as well, which I can't play the sound to unfortunately, but I will show you guys. The default bind for that's a B. This is the Macarena. But it is quite cool to see that they've already implemented an emote system. I know that was really requested from people in Krunker a while back. When it comes to player-to-player engagements in KOUR, here's where it gets a little dicey. If you're someone like me who lives in Australia, the only available server to play on are the United States servers, which are located in New York. This means I have to always play on around 220 milliseconds of ping, and since the combat is client-sided, we'll experience delayed kill trading fairly often. Something else to note is that KOUR has not yet implemented lag compensation, meaning that if you're playing far away from the server, you have to lead your shots almost like you're playing a projectile weapon to hit your targets, even though the weapons are supposedly hit scan. Something else to keep in mind is that even though the ping in game is showing that I'm in the 70s, that's not the case. For some reason in KOUR, the ping counter displays about 1/3 of your round trip time, meaning your delay between you pinging to the server and the server pinging back to you. Now, Krunker is also not innocent, as they show your ping going one way as well, but for some reason in KOUR, it's way off. I've told the development team, however, and they are aware of it, and they are going to fix it very soon. Another big topic that I want to touch is performance. How does the performance in KOUR compare to a game like Krunker? Well, let's test that. For this comparison, I'm going to be using Google Chrome on the latest build, and for both games, I'll be using the performance preset that is offered on the same resolution scale, with some minor tweaks into the settings to make it as fair as possible. Along with that, I will also spawn into both Krunker and KOUR's versions of Sandstorm, and I will be in similar spots as that's the closest comparison that I can provide. With that being said, let's see the results. Alright, so let's recap those benchmark results. Both maps are obviously not going to be the exact same when it comes to object count, but that's the closest that I can give for you guys. When it comes to raw performance, Krunker takes the crown. Another note is that KOUR is built on Unity, so that can play a major role. Something interesting that I noticed was in KOUR, the game targets the single core a lot more, where in some scenarios you can see my 7th core specifically reaching around 90+% utilization. Meanwhile, on Krunker, the game does a little better job at distributing that load across different cores, which makes sense as Core 7 and Core 8 on my CPU are my best cores that are able to boost clock the highest. In regards to GPU load in KOUR, my GPU usage would range between 30 to 45% throughout the benchmark, and in Krunker, it seemed like a steady 40%. Now, do I think that KOUR is Krunker 2.0? No. With movement aside, KOUR still has a ways to go. Hopefully we see a map editor soon with a team of makers around it, and a flourishing custom games community could potentially surface out of it as a result. I think that's the biggest thing that Krunker has over KOUR, aside from the trading and social system. There are still a bunch of bugs both on the front and back end in KOUR, some major, some minor. For instance, players are able to impersonate others through name editing and appearing as developers. So if you guys find someone you recognize in game, make sure you actually know the person you're talking to. It's not that common of an issue, but it's something worth mentioning. And the map boundaries need some work as well, as it's quite easy to get out of bounds. With all of that being said, would I recommend you to try KOUR? Yes, I think if you're in that scenario right now where current FPSs aren't really doing it for you, then I would hop in a couple of KOUR matches to see how you like it. Again, I can't stress this enough, KOUR has only been in development for some months versus Krunker that's had years to polish everything out. They're always listening to feedback, so if you guys have any thoughts on the game, be sure to join their Discord linked in the game in the top right and let them know what you guys think of it. You can also leave a comment down below with your final thoughts as well. But anyways, this has been Quacky, and I will see you all in the next one.